So today I woke up as every day. I woke up at 3 a.m. just to do this mastermind podcast challenge every Monday to Friday. And I realized that something was very different in my life this particular day. And I don't know if you noticed, but I think you did. And that is that I don't have a voice mostly. So, what I did is I suspended the transmission of this episode in the morning. And I said to my students through my social media that I will be doing treatment today for my voice. And I will be recording this during the evening/night to be able to continue with the podcast and with the challenge. Because the challenge is to do one episode every Monday through Friday for a whole year. And that means for a whole year without skipping any day, any Monday through Friday. And if that means that I need to do an episode in which I sound very weird and probably most of you will not hear this episode, I'm pretty sure that like only two types of people will hear this episode in his entirely. One, the people that are actually very interested in the spiritual benefits, spiritual meanings of the spiritual animal pig. Those people may watch it, although my voice suck today. And the other kind of people that will watch it until the end is that people that actually love me and really likes my stuff, and those that are doing the challenge, because I know it will be very difficult to follow my voice today, but I will do my best. I will give all that I got to do this with the best quality as possible, although guys, it will be not pretty. But I was thinking the pig is the great transformator. That is what the pig really is. The pig is a animal with a spiritual meaning, as all animals, and the pig specifically is the one that can eat whatever, can eat anything, and can transform that into energy. And I will be discussing that further in the episode. So I thought, so why I don't do it? If I'm gonna discuss a spiritual animal, the whole point of doing this in the podcast is for me and for you to get closer with that spiritual wisdom that every animal has for us, right? For our benefit. So I said, and I thought, so why I don't transform the fact that I'm source, um, and that I have a lot of sourceness, that I'm source, and I just go at it. Why I don't transform the fact that my voice is critical today, and why I don't go and show the world that I'm here presently doing my work, discussing subjects that almost no one discussed and are essential. For example, spiritual animals. We may think that this is something very childlike, very infantile, but spiritual animals are an essential spiritual tool for those that are wise enough to understand that we are not talking about animals here. We are talking about us. All the spiritual animals are just a reflection of us. It's a certain archetype, it's a certain pattern of existence. It is a certain way in which existence chose to present itself, chose to navigate the terrain of existence. So every animal has an infinite wisdom that is not infantile, that is not a waste of time, and that if you meditate through animals, if you meditate with the power of animal totems, you will be very advanced in your spirituality. This is a very old shamanic practice. This is not something uh, new agey. This is old stuff. This is older than Christ. This is older than Allah. This is older than Buddhism. Shamanism, totem, totemism, having animals that guide your journey. This is the real myth. This is the most archetypal way that can be. This is the purest form of spirituality. It goes to the origin. That's why if we go to caves in those first civilizations, what type of stuff people used to draw in those caves? They used to draw and paint a lot of animals, because animals, they represented god-like principles. They were God, and they represented certain potential that we had in us. That's why I think it's important, and that's why I bring this subject to my podcast, although I know it may seem weird. So I have been all day, like all day, drinking pure lemon and pure honey, and also the mints that you can. They are like a candy of mint that for your nasty throat. All day and all day, I have been doing my mantra for my throat. It will be the jam, the ham. I have been doing this all day, and I passed from not being able to talk at all to at least have this low quality voice. So let's work with this. So why the pig? By the way, before we start, my name is Dr. Derek Israel. This is the episode 497 of the Mastermind Podcast Challenge, Season 2. So why the pig? Well, why not the pig? We have this misperception with this animal, specifically in United States and America. We associate the pig with the police in a very rude and offensive way. We associate the pig with being nasty, with being fat, with being indesirable, with bad smell, with nastiness generally. And that has disconnect us as a society, as a civilization, of the wisdom of the pig. We don't see the pig anymore as divine as it used to be. And this is very sad because the pig, if you study ancient cultures, Asian, China, stuff like that, the Celtic culture, the Native American culture, if you study deeply their religions, that obviously they were animists, they thought that everything has a godlike matter in it. Um, they used to attribute a lot of goods, a lot of good traits and characteristics to the pig. And we now in modern society, we have forget about it. Now, there's a lot of cultures that attribute very nasty things to the pig. For example, some Muslim cultures, they do not accept or permit that you eat pig. And a lot of others, countries, cultures, religions, subgroups, cults has this type of rules in relation to the pig. But what I find is that the cultures that demonize the pig, they do it because they are not integrated. And if you have a little bit of resistance with the pig, for example, if you have resistance of having the pig as your spiritual animal or as a part of your totems repertory, well, that means that probably you haven't integrated a lot of your personality, specifically those parts of the personality of your humanness that are nasty, that are very dark, that are gross. Those religions and those cultures that get obsessed with being clean and therefore demonize the pig as dirty. Those religions, those cultures, they do not respect and admire the holisticity of the human race and of being a human being, because we are also nasty, we are also gross, we also have a shadow, we also have things hidden in our closet. And if you don't believe that, you just need to read history or just look around what is going on right now in 2022 with the war, Ukraine versus Russia, the invasion. Very sad. That's an example. I think Russia is a good example of what happened when you suppress a lot your aggression, your tendencies, your nastiness explode irrational after a certain time, as is it is doing now with the war. But that is another, you know, more complicated kind of subject. The whole idea here, guys, is that you need to understand that you have a lot of things in your personality that are not so pure. So why you will demonize the pig as impure when you yourself are impure? So one of the things that the pig comes to remind us as human beings is that we have a shadow, that we need to acknowledge our dirtiness, and we cannot reject that part of ourselves. And only by acceptance, only by compassion, only by integration, we will be happy. So, as I was telling you before, the pig also is the essential transformator, or we can call it transformer. I guess that is the right word. Transformator? I don't know if that word exists. Let me check real quick. Um, what is going on in my laptop? What the hell is this? Sorry, guys, I'm trying to. My laptop is crazy. Everything today, today is like the, the Murphy's law for me. Everything that can goes wrong will go wrong. Oh my gosh, what the hell happened? Anyways, now I cannot write anything in my laptop. Suddenly, I cannot write anything. So yes, transformer, I think it is the right word. So that is what the pig comes to remind us. I don't know what are you going through in your life right now. You may be going through a lot of problems, a lot of mud, a lot of shit. Well, this is a good moment then for transforming everything, eating the shit, eating the shit, like the pig eating mud, and transforming that into energy. One of the most beautiful things that a human being can do is to transform his greatest obstacles in his greatest virtues. That is like the best thing that a human being can do. And the pig come to remind us about that. You can always can transmute substances within your consciousness. Remember, when we are talking about spiritual animals, we are just talking about different kinds of consciousness. So these all happen in your consciousness. You are not going to turn into a pig. It doesn't work like that. But you develop in your consciousness a pig like kind of framework in your own humanness if you work with this certain animal, if you study this animal, if you meditate this animal, if you create art based on this animal. That is one of the most, I will say, strongest ways of connecting with a specific animal, whichever. Do an art related to that animal. So maybe you can draw a pig, maybe you can paint a pig, or maybe you can do a literature work about a pig. That is a very good way to connect with your animals. Another symbolism, or a very, very essential archetypal meaning that is associated with the pig all around the globe and all around history, is that the pig is a principle of wealth and fertility. So, one of the things that I discovered studying for this podcast, because I have been fascinated with the pig since my trip to India. In India, when I was walking in the streets of India, sometimes you see pigs walking there with you, right? It's very normal. Also, you see cows, chicken, other type of animals. So I was always hanging out with pigs there, and I used to observe them and study about them and meditate on them. So I have been very interested in pigs since a couple of years now, spiritually talking. But I sat down to study more deeply the subject, just to do this podcast. And something that I discovered that I didn't know, and it's a good, like a kind of cool fact, is that because the pig is so intrinsically associated with wealth and richness and money, that's why it is called the piggy banks. The piggy banks are the objects in which you put the cents wi- to save it. So it is kind of cool. Like, we have maintained that aspect. We may not know it, but yeah, most of these piggy banks are pigs form, because that is the archetypal principle of pigs, to be wealthy. And why is that? Well, two things in pig consciousness make it a good fit for this pattern of wealth. One thing is that they are very, very earthly. So if you're working with this animal, you should be working a lot with the earth element, because the pig is very earthly. That means he loves earth. And because it loves earth, is very grounded in material reality. Like the pig is the boss of the third dimension. Like the pig is a very good material being. It loves food, it loves get dirty, it loves everything that is material based. Like it loves matter. And because it loves matter, it can reproduce matter. And it can reproduce matter in a fertility kind of environment when we are talking about sexual reproduction, but also it can reproduce matter as an economical means. And that's why it is associated all around the world with being wealthy. But also it has a shadow. Also, the pig as a shadow, as the dark side of the archetype, as the dark side of the spiritual animal. All spiritual animals have like a blank and a black side, like a, good and bad kind of. And in the case of the pig, they can become very, very greedy, very greedy. So they can become addicts to things in matter very easily. They can become addicts to money. They can become addicts to food. Gluttony is one of the sins for the pig. That's why sometimes projected as very fat, as eating only, eating only, eating only, because it can go to that opposite side of the virtue of materialism. When I say that you can be wealthy by working with the pig, I'm saying that in a good sense. That is a virtue for the pig, but it can go wrong, like everything in life, if it is not measured and not well controlled with a very wise character, plan, values, and consciousness. So that's why it is not only about connecting with your spiritual animals and discovering them in your spiritual journey, but it's also to meditate a lot, to digest the information in a way that your ego will not become inflated or shadowy in a way that will compromise your spiritual work. Every animal has the potential to drag you to its shadow. Like everything is spirituality, magic is the same. You can do black magic, you can do white magic. Everything is the same. With the chakras, for example, if you're working with the chakras and you overwork a chakra or you underwork a chakra, you will get unbalanced. The whole system, the whole chakral system will become unbalanced. So, if you are looking for wealth and fertility, do not hesitate. Do not hesitate and study the pig, meditate on the pig. Let me search for something that I have in the top of my mind. So the pig can be so vital and viral, not viral, um They can be so reproducible that their orgasm can last for 30 minutes. Do you imagine that? So just Google pig orgasm, and it says the longest orgasm in mammals is that of the domestic pig, Sus scrofra domesticus. On average, its orgasm lasts 30 minutes. So they are very sexual. So lust, addiction to sex, it is also something that you should be wise enough to navigate correctly when you are working with this animal. This is some of the warnings in your spiritual work. And another thing that I want to say about the pig as an spiritual animal is that the pig sniff the opportunity. The pig always is smelling the virtue, smelling his way to success. Also, the pig's very connected with success, with good luck, with good fortune. But it is not because he's a pig, it's because he's always looking, is always active, is proactive, sniffing his way into victory. So let me share my screens. If you are just listening to the audio, you will not benefit, but just imagine a pig in your mind. Those of you that are on my YouTube channel, Derek Israel, or that are in my Spotify station looking at the video, will see the images. So I will share my screen real quick. And I just want to show you a little bit of the morphology of the animal, because at the end of the day, as I always tell you in the spiritual animals kind of episodes, I always tell you, look at the morphology, at the anatomy of the animal to drive better spiritual conclusions. Look at this nose, and I know that is not a nose. I have another name. Let me say. Give me just a second. See, how do you call that? I don't know. I don't know how do you call in English the nose of the animals, but you may know. So yeah, it have a very big nose. You can see this, right? And this is so important because this is the organ that is representing how much they care for where the wealth is, how much they care for where the opportunity is. So you need to develop that kind of nose, spiritually speaking, and always remember to sniff your way into opportunity and success like the pig. Okay. And finally, I just want to mention something. Remember that the pig can always turn or transform itself into the wild pig. So we always think in relation to the pig as a very serene, kind of mammal. It is not a very dangerous kind of organism or creature. But we are forgetting that wild pigs are so also are pigs and are in the conversation, and they are like a spiritual variation of the pig, and they go and hunt with persistence, and they get the job done very quick, very fast, and with a lot of aggression and forward pressure and power. So I bring this point because I don't want you to confuse the pig as very feminine in his energy, in his chi, you know, his gene. Yeah, he's very gene. But when he turns to the wild pig, he's very young. He's very masculine and always with the pig. You have that potential of being wild if the environment demands that type of decisive action. So, all right, that is for today. I didn't extend it too much because my obvious condition, it is not ideal. I did my best. So, what I will do tomorrow, I will not uh I will not uh I will not be streaming at 4 a.m. I will record again at night. I will continue with the treatment, and I hope that 24 hours after this episode, I will be much better tomorrow in a very important subject about what is luminosity, the real nature of spiritual light. And that is one of the most important episodes of this podcast. And I want to have my voice at least 60 or 70% good to go for that episode. All right. So I will upload that episode in the night. And I hope that Friday I will come back as normal. Let's see how my voice goes. Remember that you can support this podcast on Patreon. If you want to see exclusive material of Dr. Derek Israel, just go to Patreon, see all the categories in which you can support this podcast with only $5 per month. If you are enjoying all the free content that I am distributing for you, well, maybe that is a good idea to give back a little bit and to support this podcast to be sustainable in the long term. Thank you for that. Thank you for considering that. And lastly, I just want to say that if you are very closed minded towards spiritual animals, towards shamanism, towards the mystical aspect of life, and you are struggling a lot with these ideas, or maybe you are struggling to put these ideas in practice, well, I will definitely recommend you uh, to go and enroll in my meditation course, because meditation for excellence is the way that you will enlighten your consciousness to understand better these processes, these shamanic processes, these mystical experiences. I know that there is uh, a lot of other techniques that you can use to achieve this state. Meditation is not the only one. You can do this with people do it with psychedelics. People do it with yoga. People do it with music, with trance in music. People do it with near death experiences, with traveling, with vision quests, a lot of different techniques. The good thing about meditation, though, is that it's convenient for you. It is something that you can do in your house, you can do it in your work, you can do it 10 minutes, 5 minutes in your car, and it will revolutionize your life. You will be more attuned to every emotion. You will be more attuned to every intuition. And therefore, you will be more attuned to every spiritual insights, including spiritual animals, but not only this, all the spectrum of spirituality comes with meditation. So if you want to know all the steps, the baby steps into steps, go to theregistrar.com and enroll my meditation course. Only right now is only on Spanish, but I will be translating this course to English in the next month or so. So check it out. Maybe when you are seeing this, it's already on English as well. So thank you guys, and I see you tomorrow in the night. Remember, I'm not coming early, and also if you consider it worth it, share this episode with a friend.